Hello all. Today we're going to talk about modern Android UI and basically the latest Android's libraries, APIs that are related with the UI. And let's start first with a short introduction from my side. I'm an Android developer at VMware. Um, I I started coding for Android maybe 10 years ago, and I really enjoyed exploring the latest technologies, the latest APIs that every year Google is injecting to Android, and experiment with them, play with them, and
На секунду.
hopefully one day to implement them in the projects I'm working on. From other than that, my hobbies are I am a big football fan. I also enjoy playing different sports like volleyball, table tennis, um, playing video games, stuff like that. I'm also a big tech enthusiast, enjoying watching reviews, videos, buying different gadgets. And yeah, that's from my side. As I said, I'm working at VMware, and I'm working here for almost 2 years. And I'm working more specifically in for one app, which is called Boxer. Maybe most of you, when you hear about VMware, you're linking that and relating VMware mainly to cloud and virtualization maybe, but VMware also has a lot of other products, and also VMware is heavily investing in mobile apps. And one of these apps is Boxer, which is email app that has also a calendar, file manager, contacts functionality. And it's part of the VMware solution called Workspace ONE, which is concentrated to our corporate club clients where they want to secure apps that they can put to their employees, so the communication will be secure, so they can work from distance without any issues. And Boxer has over 1 million downloads only on Google Play, more than 500,000 active devices that are using Boxer every day. And what separates Boxer from the competition is our security standards. We're the first email app, and I think that we are only one at the moment that have achieved NIAP Common Criteria certification, which is NIAP basically is a US national program for validating and creating a software security practices, checking for vulnerabilities and any kind of issues. As I said, VMware is heavily investing also in mobile apps, and even in Sofia we have a team, a big team, like 30 people for iOS and for Android combined. So if you're interested, you can keep looking for some openings, and yeah, you can join us. So that's enough for Boxer. Let's see the agenda for today. So today we're going to talk mainly about the Sparse Screen API. We are going to see the old way how in the past different apps have implemented some kind of sparse screens. Also, there is like a default behavior on Android 12, and at the end, we're going to see what Google has prepared as functionality for this Sparse Screen API. After we switch from the opening of the app, then we're going to see the new Jetpack Compose library, which is a totally new way of creating views and screens on Android. And if you have watched Google I/O this year or even last year, maybe you have noticed that more than half of the videos were related to Jetpack Compose. So Google is pushing pretty hard on that one. And there are a lot of benefits there, which we're going to talk about. We're going to compare again some of the implementations with XML views and so on. And at the end, we're going to finish our UI talk with material design tree or material U with dynamic colors and so on. So we are going to see how we can migrate from material design tool or any other brand design that we have to the new one and implement the dynamic color feature. At the end, there's going to be time for your questions, but I encourage you, if you have any questions during the presentation, you can write down the question in the chat, and at the end we can read on them, or you can ask your question at the end. But yeah, just not to forget your question or something like that. You can put it in the chat. Okay, so moving on, moving on and starting with the splash screens. And the old way of doing that. So I have prepared two emulators, which on the left side, you can see this one is not responding. On the right side, you can see Android 12 emulator. Let me just restart that for a minute. Sorry about that. Yeah, so on Android 12, Google implemented a new Sparse Screen, which is basically, if you don't have a custom one, every app will start like this. Basically, the icon of the app will go in the center and will close. Previously on legacy, not legacy, but old version of Android, there was just white screen or a black screen depending on the theme, and you're in that. But this is not the best UX. And yeah, we as developers has different approaches here to fight that. So so yeah, let me just show you. So this is the old way. So it's just a blank screen, and we are entering up when the views are rendered. And let's have a look. Yeah. Let's have a look on one of the solutions that we had before, which was with custom splash. So I hope that the font is good enough for you to read it. But yeah, in the past, what we have done before was that in the themes, we were creating, I mean, there are different solutions for that, but this one is the more common one. Basically, we create a different app theme that usually is inheriting from our main app theme, and we changed our window background to a custom drawable. In this case, we have named it launch screen. And there is nothing kind of specific for this team. Usually we just remove the window, action bar, title, and so on, and make sure that everything is in full screen. Then in this window background, basically this drawable usually is looking something like this. So we have a layer list, we have some background. So this color can be different depending on the theme. So if it's white theme, maybe we can put white color. If it's dark, we can. If it's a dark theme, we can put some dark color here. And basically, we can place our product logo. In this case, it's a shape, but it can be bitmap, and also we can change little things inside its attributes here. And this will work. I mean, then we can, in Android manifest, we can set the theme for the application on the application level, and then we can switch back to the main theme, the main activity. But if we want to do some background work, so basically if we want to load some data or load some libraries in the background during the Sparse Screen, in the past, usually we create something that we call Sparse activity, which we start and which we set our new theme to it. And in this Sparse activity, we don't have a layout. We just started it, and it is using the window background, basically this drawable that we set, and we can do some background work. In this case, I'm just simulating some work for 1.5 seconds, and then we're switching back to the main activity. So how is this working? Let me show you. I mean, everything is going to work fine here. So I'm trying to resize this one more. Okay. So you can see it's waiting for 1.5 seconds, and then you're into that. So it is working fine, and basically we can do with this Splash activity whatever we want. We can add animations. Also, we can have a layout if we want. We can do heavy stuff here, but yeah, it's not very recommended, and it is a little bit harder to do. So what did Google did about the Sparse screens? So let's go back to the presentation. So in Android 12, every app that doesn't have Sparse Screen, or even if they did but didn't override the default one, every app on Android 12 will have this Sparse Screen, which is basically the icon which is centered in the middle of the screen. But also they released the new Sparse Screen API, which give us a lot of powerful and easy to use APIs to achieve basically the most common use cases for Sparse screens. So the requirements for using that API is that your app is targeting Android 12, but if you're using Android X Sparse Screen library, it supports backward compatibility until API 21, minus 2 functionalities. So which are specific for Android 12 Plus, which are the support for animated web images and supporting the branding image. But fortunately, even for API 21, it supports custom animations for exiting the screen and also doing some extra work. So let's go back to our demo project and quickly switch to the branch that has the Sparse API, so I can show you the steps basically to do all of that. So what we need here is again a new team, which this time is implementing Team Sparse Screen. So when we implement that one, we are ready to go. We can set a specific color for our background. And we can specify the icon that we want to show. And this is the important attribute, which is after the Sparse Screen, which will be the default theme, which is our main one. So we don't have to worry about switching themes for the activity that we open and so on. So this is the first step, creating a new style that is inheriting Team Sparse Screen. Of course, we have to add the Sparse Screen library, which the latest version for it is this one. Yeah, in the manifest, we have to set the theme to the new starting one, which is using the new API. And in main activity, we just need this one here, install Sparse Screen, and we are ready to go. This is the basic default Sparse Screen that is going to work even on older devices. So on the left emulator, we have Android 11. So you can see the Sparse Screen here, and on the right side, it's Android 12. And to just notice here, so when we start that from Android Studio, the icon is usually missing, but when we start again, then it is showing. Okay, so we have the basic splash screen, but what if we want to what if we want to change a little bit the layout here? So, for example, if we right now our splash background for white theme is this green color. If we set it to white, for example, and run it again, you'll see that the contrast here is not very good. And also the default, maybe I should run it only in Android 11 for now. The contrast is not very good. And basically the default implementation for Android 12 looks a little bit better. So that's why in the API we have this functionality to add icon background. So something very similar that is basically the background for icons. When we have icon for the background, basically the circle that is adaptive, and the foreground, which is the icon itself. So if we add this one, then we can have a new attribute, which is called window splash screen icon background color, and we can set it to something like this green color here, for example, TL7. And when we run again, that you can see that now it's going to have this ring, this circle around our icon. What about the exit animation that I mentioned? So if we go to the main activity, basically we can add animation to our Sparse screen. But to do that, we need an object that is going to represent our Sparse screen. And this method install Sparse Screen basically is returning the Sparse Screen object, which we can use. So here, if we want to, for example, yeah, I will copy some code just to make it a little bit faster. So if we have just importing a few imports. So with this object that we have here, we can set an exit animation. In this case, just for the demo. Basically, we want to translate our screen to go to the left side and just remove itself at the end. We are using the decelerate interpreter and the duration of our animation to be a little bit less than a second. So let's see our result right now. If we run that once again, you can see that at the end, Sparse Screen is, let me just start it on Android 12 on both devices. The animation, the Sparse Screen is going to move to the left side. It's a little bit hard to see because it's white and white background. But yeah, if you look carefully, it's moving left. For the next demo, I'm going to change the background again for our Sparse Screen, just to be, for example, this one. Okay, so let's customize even more our Sparse Screen. Let's, for example, add a branding image. But as I said, branding image is only supported for Android 12. So we have to use our theme specific for Android 12 and above. And we can add a new attribute here, which is called Windows Sparse Screen branding image, which we are referencing our splash brand image, which is just layer list. It looks like this, and you'll see it's positioned. It is positioned just below the icon. So okay, so let's start again. And you can see this is the brand image, and that was the animation that we added. Yeah, so for example, the Meta apps like Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, if you're using them, maybe you have noticed that when you open them, there is a Meta logo at the bottom as a branding image. This is basically an easy way to get the same result here. So we can add our animated logo, which is again very easy to do with this new API. But again, the animated logos are only supported for Android 12. So here we are going to add the duration. So this is the only thing that we need apart from changing to animated drawable. So I'm going to add Windows Sparse Screen animation duration, and let's put it for half a second, and let's change our animated icon, not to launcher foreground, but let's put news AVD. Basically, this is a drawable that is very similar to Google's news app. So let's see how that one will work. again, this can be exported. This can be whatever we want as a um, animated vector. And sorry, let's see the result. Okay. So you can see that the animation was done for half a second. And this is how animated icons are working. And the last thing that is another common thing to do for Sparse Screens is doing some background work. So this thing is not Android 12 specific. So I'm going to just in onCreate, I'm just going to add a method here. For example, set up pre-draw listener, because yeah, because we are going to listen when our background work is done, and then we are going to return from the Sparse screen. So I'll just copy paste some methods just to not waste time here. But if we call that one, what we have to do is to basically reference the view, which is going to take the whole content of the activity main, in this case, basically the layout that is on our screen. And then we are going to observe with our pre-draw listener. And in the onPredraw method, we're going to listen if our work is ready. So this is very like simulated thing, but usually here you can fetch some data, you can load some library, and when the method is finished, then you return some Boolean, for example, and then you just return true and remove the listener, so you don't cause any leakage. But yeah, in this case, if we start up, it will do some work for half a second, very similar to the old way that I showed in the beginning. So yeah, if we run that on Android 11 device, you'll see that again, there is going to be half second and a half doing some work, and then it's going to transition left. But it's not using the animated icon because it's only for Android 12, neither the branding image. So this is the Sparse Screen API. It is covering the most used use cases for adding a brand to your app. Your colors, you can play with the night theme, the colors, and so on. But you can add animated logos, branding image. You can play with the transition. You can play with. You can add some background work, and it's all of it is made very easy to use. That's why this API is very. I think it was very needed. Okay, so let's go back to our presentation. Okay, so the next topic that we're going to talk about is Jetpack Compose, which is a very big topic. We are just going to have a very high overview. We are going to, again, we're going to check some quick demos, how we can slowly implement Jetpack Compose in an existing project, or how we can play with it. But it's a very powerful library, and I think it's going to be very useful when it is adopted by more companies and more teams. And also Google is not is continuing to improve it and add new functionalities and so on. So Jetpack Compose, in short, is very similar to what Footer is doing. If anyone is doing some Footer programming, also very similar to Swift UI. Basically, declaratively, you can describe your views, and a lot of the work is being done in the background. So this is an example that is shown when you open the Jetpack Compose developer page, when you can start learning about Jetpack Compose, and it's very short code, like 5-6 lines, but it's doing this animation on the right side, which if you try to do it with a regular XML views or some custom view, I guess you would manage to do it, but for sure it's not going to be five lines. So let me just explain a little bit the code here. It's very elegant. So for every compose function that we want to create, we have to add an annotation at composable at the top. Then basically we declare our UI, which when starting from the outside and go outside the most outside view and go to the most inner one. So we start with a card, which basically represent this border here, and we have state. So Jetpack Compose is very friendly and very easy to use with observable data and states, saving states, and so on. So we remember if we are expanded or not. Then we have a column, which in Jetpack Compose, this is from Jetpack Compose, column is equivalent to linear layout with vertical orientation in XML views. So we are saying something like, okay, this whole linear layout is clickable. So when the user click on it, then we change the flag, basically the boolean of the expanded variable here. Then we have image. We set the drawable to this image with this code here, and then this animated visibility that is depending on expanded. Basically, if it's true, then we are showing this text Jetpack Compose. We can put a style to it. In this case, it's header 2 or something like that. And basically, this animation that is doing all of this is behind this animated visibility class. So with so little lines of code, this custom view on the right is built in. It's showcasing the power of Jetpack Compose. So the current version of Jetpack Compose is 1.2. There are some missing things, like some functionality that you can do with XML views. But as I said, Google is working on improving on that, and they are heavily advertising this new library. So I think it's the future, and now is the time that I mean, Jetpack Compose is stable. So now is the time that we as developers or as teams can start learning it and think for integrating it in our existing projects. Or if we want to start a new one, maybe we can start directly with Jetpack Compose. So one of the big benefits for it is less code, as we saw in the first example. Basically, we're removing the need for XML files. We are removing the need for even for binding and so on. Everything is written in Kotlin, so you can jump very easy to the classes, to the implementation. It is very easy to understand. You are like using the declarative approach, which is I think, a lot more preferable, and basically a lot of the animations, a lot of the theming views have their styles basically built in very easy, and in most of the cases out of the box. And yeah, what else is very good about Jetpack Compose is that it's very easy to add it to your existing project, because it's compatible with the existing XML files. Basically, you can have XML file, and you can add to it composable view inside this XML view, and they can be on the same screen, and vice versa. Basically, you can have a compose, and if something is some functionality is not implemented in compose that you need, you can add your custom view, for example, as XML file in compose, and everything will work. Also, Android Studio has some great new tooling for specifically for Jetpack Compose, such as live previews, which we can see later in the demos. Okay, so before the recycle views, I just want to show you. Let's review this small compose example, which I hope will give you a little bit more context. So what we have here on the right side, you can see the live preview that I talked about. On the left side, we have our activity. Then we don't have like set content view or something like that to some XML layout file. We have set content, which is basically equivalent to that. And then we can set a compose theme. We can declare container for our views with a specific background color. Is it going to be much parent or some specific size? Yeah, later you will see basically in Jetpack Compose, the modifier is very frequently used for different kinds of paddings, margins, and so on. So we have our surface, and inside our surface, which is basically the, in this case, the whole screen, we call this greeting function with the parameter Android. And this greeting function, this is composable with this annotation. And inside of it, just for this example, I wanted to show you some basic views, how they're implemented in Compose. So in this case, we are starting with a column, which is, like I said, equivalent to linear layout with vertical orientation. And we put a modifier to it. We add padding of 24 dp on every side. And inside this column, we have a row. Basically, in Jetpack Compose, in the layout, there are a lot of rows and columns all the time. So row is linear layout, but with horizontal orientation. So we have a row. Inside this row, we have another column. So we have two text views. One is hello, comma, and the second one is name, which is the parameter that we pass to this function, in this case, Android. So we also make a modifier, which is, again, if you know, in linear layout, we have a weight sum and also a weight to every view. In this case, if we put a weight of 1, then these views are going to be equally spread inside this column. So we continue with the row. So this is the left side, and on the right side we have outline button, which is this button here. There's must have a parameter which is on click, which is receiving a lambda. In our demo, yeah, we can put anything here. Basically, this is the quick listener for the button, and we set a text for our button, show more. And because this row is inside the column, below this row, we have an image. This is an example of how we can add, let me do a new one here. We can add an image. We can, again, get access to the resources and assign it to our image. And, for example, add content description. And this is the interesting part and one of the powerful features of Compose. So we can have a class for composables, which can have very many views that can look like this one. So this is a single radio button. So basically, this is this one here, and we can have our library of different, let's say, custom views, specific for our app with specific styles, specific themes, and we can call them directly in other composables or in other activities directly. So we have a single radio button that can be reused in many places, and in there we can have parameters to be passed on, or in this case, we have a row, so horizontal linear layout with a certain alignment. Then we have a radio button, which is just the circle here that can be selected, or and also have an on-click listener. And we have a text, basically the label of the item. So also we can preview only this composable. So if we add this one here, we can have just this custom view on the right side, and we can play with different options, and we can see yeah, we can see it's changed to different. If we change modifiers, if we change logic, we can test it once. That was escape. We can, yeah, so it was a little bit slow, but if you remember, if I put it end string, so this one is true, and now it's selected in the single radio button. So many times in practice, we know that we want to check specific layout, and maybe it's behind several steps to go to the screen. With this Compose preview, we can go, we can test our views directly, the preview here. And also here we have this default preview, which basically is this one. So we are testing our greeting method, which is this one, and it's rendering these views. And we have specific modifiers here. For example, if this is false, for example, then we're not going to see like the whole phone, but just our items inside. So this is a very quick and basic look of Jetpack Compose, mainly columns, rows, and inside them we have different views which we can modify. Another interesting thing is that our colors, our themes, shapes, types, and everything now in Compose, they are Kotlin classes, they are not XMLs. Here I have XMLs because in the same project I will show you how you can have XML views and Compose views at once. But usually if your app is only using Compose, then you don't need XML files for power strings. No, for strings you need, but for teams and so on demands, you can use Kotlin files here. Okay, moving on. Yeah, so lazy columns rows, which is the equivalence for recycle view in XML approach. So I will demo in a minute how with the Compose you can create these lists with a lot less lines, and it's a lot easier to understand. But also out of the box with lazy columns and rows, we have functionality for sticky headers, which is a thing that is presented in Swift UI. And for example, if we want to have parity between one product that has iOS and Android version, usually the Android team has to do a lot of custom code and a lot of custom tricks to make these sticky headers. And with Jetpack Compose, it's out of the box, like you can see on the video on the right side. Also, with these lazy columns rows, we have a lot better control of the scroll positions, which are usually a lot tricky with standard recycle views. There's also easier pagination, and as I said, there's a lot less code written to create a list of items because basically adapter class is not needed. So we can switch to the demo now for this specific thing. So I suppose you all know how we can implement the recycle view with XML. So, but let's go through and just try to remember how many lines of code we have for one simple recycle view. In our use case, we have first, sorry. So first we have XML for our recycle view, even if we don't have any specific other views, we just need an XML file for recycle view. Then in the activity, we have to reference our recycle view. Then we have to add linear layout manager. We can do that in the XML. Anyway, we need adapter also for that. And in this case, let's say we want to add some decoration. And in the adapter, yeah, this is a simple example, but yeah, the lines are not very small. We have to extend the recycle view adapter. Inside of it, we have to override on create view folder, which we have to reference our layout for a single item. So we have we need again XML file similar like this one. So for example, a card view with two text views inside a linear layout. And basically we're creating one item view folder. Then we should override on bind view folder, and we have to check in which position of the data that we are in, so we can bind its information. So we are calling inside the item view folder, we are calling bind view, and we are assigning our values to the views that we have inside a single item. And then we have this item count. And yeah, this is the implementation for the item decoration. And also, if we want to have animations, for example, if there dynamically we add or remove or reorder items inside of this, I guess we can also add diffutil class to this one, so it could be even longer than all of this. So yeah, let's see how is the how we can do all of that in Compose. So in Compose we have yeah. So everything is inside here. So we set content. We have this myLazyColumn, which is a custom composable function, which is taking our list items. These list items usually are coming from view model from some repository. And inside of it, we have yeah, our lazy column class that has these items. Basically, this is our view holder if we want to be equal to the recycle view implementation. With and this spacer is basically our equivalent to to the item decoration. So in our view item, we have a card, we have row with two text views, and we assign the information here. So this is all for our lazy column equivalent to recycle view. Okay, so moving on. This is just showing the power of Jetpack Compose. And now we can talk briefly about strategies for integrating Jetpack Compose. So first, I think if you want to start using Jetpack Compose in your existing projects, you have to be really motivated and to motivate your team to start first play with Compose, start with some small screens. But also a very good thing to do beforehand is to create a good teams. Basically, these styles or even these composable custom views that you can reuse all over your app. This is, I think, even a requirement before you start implementing Compose to be sure that you're prepared for all of that. And then you can have a strategy to, for example, for every new feature that is having a new screen, to write it in Compose, and yeah, and start from there. Also, you can rewrite existing screens, and you can start even with one simple view. For example, the whole XML will stay, but in the inner components, you replace the XML views with Compose. Yeah, so shortly I can show you how you can add the Compose in the distant XML. So for example, here we have XML file with regular text view. And if we want this Compose view inside this XML, we just add the Compose view with the specific ID. And then in the activity, so yep. So here, when we set our layout, basically we can find our Compose view and then apply first our strategy, which usually is to dispose the life cycle when dispose the tree when the life cycle is straight. And then basically we can set content and we can do whatever we want inside inside these brackets. Basically, we can write whatever we want in Compose. Like in the comment set, it's in Compose Word right now. In this case, we're just adding the text view with hello Compose. This is the way how we can add Compose views in XML, but vice versa is like this one. So we have a custom view, for example, and inside of it we can have Android view, which basically it's referencing that we are going to put some custom view that is going to be XML or something like that. We need to have a factory with which is going to give us a context. And in this case, we have image view and we are setting a drawable to it. So this image view is not composable. It's, if we can see, it's a widget. Yep, so this is Compose in short. So let's go back to the presentation. And let's talk a little bit about Material Design Tree, or also known as Material U. So basically, there was a very big redesign when Android 12 was announced last year, and there was a big redesign in the widgets. There is a big emphasizing on big screens or on foldable phones, and you can see you can see that everything is changed. The buttons are more rounded. There are a lot more colors. It's more personalized and so on. And during the past year, basically all of the Google apps was updated from the old Material Design to Material U. So here on the left side, you can see the calculator. On the left side, the old version. On the right side, the new one. Also the Gmail one. Also, these colors in the calculator app are dynamically changing based on the system-wide colors that are extracted from the user's wallpaper. So, what's the difference other than the design language and the update there? You can see that in Material U, the color palette that is generated and is used by the system and can be used by the apps has a lot more colors. There are color primary container, color on primary container that are new and was not presented in the basic theme before. So we as developers or as designers have a lot more options to play, to express the branding of our product, and Material U has the tools for that. And we can talk a little bit about the dynamic color theming. So on Android 12 and above, the system can extract a color palette from the user's wallpaper and personalize the whole experience of the phone. So ideally, every app that you open, the colors are going to be similar. And when you change wallpaper, everything will sync and everything will change color. And the experience will be more cohesive than ever. And I just want to show you a very quick example for migrating how you can migrate to Material Design U. And so I have an app installed. This one, yeah, this one basically is using the theme Material Components, day, night, dark action bar. And you can see that it's a standard Material Design app. I have put some standard views here. And if we want to migrate to Material 3, we can do that very easily by changing the parent of our theme to Material 3. For example, day night, it doesn't have dark action bar, but if we remove that, we can run that. Even, yeah, it's backport compatible. The only thing that is required is that we are using Google Android material version 1.5 and above. The latest one is this one. So when we have this, yeah, so this is the same app as this one, but when we change that, you can see the out of the box, basically the bottom navigation view is changed, the floating action button, the button, the switch even, and the radio buttons. If we want to use the dynamic feature, it's also very, very easy to implement. So we just need to have the application class. So if we want to make it, yeah, application is not very good to name, but anyway, if we want to have okay, yeah, application really is not a great name. So I'll create a new one. So let's try material design, for example, this one. Let's, yeah. Now it's better. So if we want to globally use the dynamic hours, then we just need in the application class, in the onCreate method, to add this line of code. Dynamic hours apply to activities if available, and we pass the application. So if if the app is running on Android 12 and above, then it's going to use the dynamic hours. It's going to replace our palette if our cover names are matching with the system covers that are extracted from the wallpaper. The last thing that we have to do is just to have in the manifest the material design class. And now if we run it, you can see the colors are taken from the wallpaper. And now if we change the wallpaper, for example, to this green one, yeah, we just hopefully on emulator it will change the colors. And yeah, okay, let me try one more time from styles. So we want to change wallpapers. We want to let's try. Let's set some green one. Okay. And yeah, now the accent colors and so on are in different palette. So if we open our interior design app, you can see dynamically that the colors changed. Okay. With that, I think that I don't have more slides. That was all, but if you have any questions, now is the time.
Do you plan to implement dynamic icons, the new feature coming with Android 13 right now? Because we have received the final APIs right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the dynamic icons is another thing that is, I think they basically announced the feature for Android 13, not for 12. And it's very interesting. For Android 12, I think only Google Apps were supporting
Yes.
icons. Yeah. And for Android 13, they opened the API for third-party apps. And in our product, we researched the feature, and it's very easy to implement. I think most of the third-party apps are going to implement that. It's very easy. And I think it's going to improve a lot the UX for the users generally. And hopefully other OEMs are going to implement these themed icons. Not only, I think only Pixel's phones now have that feature. But hopefully it's going to be more widespread. But yeah, very interesting feature. Unfortunately, I couldn't add it also to this presentation, but yeah, Google is trying to make this material view very, in my opinion, very good looking and very cohesive and personal. So from my point of view, it's great.
I have another question. Is there a place where at least internally we can propose some improvements to the Boxer app, for example, or even report some issues maybe? Because I didn't find such.
Yeah, we have a beta feedback portal. I guess you are from VMware.
Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you can ping me on Slack. I will give you links, or even in the app, there is option to send feedback that yeah, we are looking at.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What happens if I choose one color background for my phone?
That's interesting. I think that they're going to, I mean, they're going to put some extra colors that are close to white. I haven't tested, but I think that's going to be the case.
You cannot choose only one color. Officially, you can choose only a palette of colors. So by default, if you choose even only green, because in Android 13 you have a selection of a couple of solid colors, for example, solid green. And if you choose only green, you get a mixture of 3 or 4 basic colors, which are coming out of the box.
That was kind of my question. Does it have some kind of default color palettes and themes for that case, for that kind of case?
Yeah, so I guess there are some by default colors, and yeah, I guess they are not like close to the solid one, but basic color that was mentioned. Okay, if there are no other questions, I think we're a little bit over the time. Thank you very much for your attention, and hopefully this presentation was interesting for you, and you're going to be motivated to try out some of the things and maybe propose to implement them in your project or use them in your personal ones. Thank you very much.
Thank you.